been long enough, I can actually make a video about it now. You guys like my little stand? I made these. Originally, I was going to have them all on little platforms like that, but after making the first one, I got bored. So, yeah, they're all right there. Showing my support. Yeah, I guess also I should say, I should have said this in the beginning, I do have a bias towards towards the strike. Clearly, I am in favor of the writers and the actors. I have very little sympathy for the producers, and I'll get into that why later. First off, why am I talking about this? I think it's actually pretty obvious, but my channel, and also kind of like my life in general, all revolves around films and filmmaking. Whether that be, you know, from writing to producing to actually being on set and then finishing it off in post-production. I went to school for that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing I want to get into as a future career. And also my channel where I talk about these specific movies and sets and history and whatnot. I rely on all that. So the strikes that's happening right now does heavily impact, one, my opinion, two, the films that I enjoy to this day, and just also if I would ever have a future with these filmmakers. Just filmmaking in general, yeah. I'm rambling a little bit, sorry. So this strike that's been going on, at this point of recording, I think they've passed the 120 day mark, I can't remember. But they've been striking for over 120 days. And since the actors have joined the writers, I did make an update video. It's not on my channel anymore. I took it down because it's rushed job, whatever. I didn't like it. I do have a review made and ready to go. Carly has already made the thumbnail. Melody, or Small Animations, or Small, I think she just goes by to Small now. She made new Kishti avatars for me to use for this new video and also for future reviews. But unfortunately, I didn't get it finished until after the actors have joined the strike, and actually made a rule for influencers to not promote movies, specifically ones produced and made by companies that they're striking against. And unfortunately, the movie I reviewed, it's a really old movie. It came out in the 90s. Even though, yeah, I did film it and record it and got most of it made before the actors joined the writers, and I am such a huge, I'm not such a huge person, woohoo! I'm a really, really, really tiny channel, like, I'm only just barely 100, I think I'm 130 right now, so really posting my review would pretty much, like, do nothing, except because I do support the actors and the writers, that review is not going to come out until later. And since there's a possibility the strike is going to go on until October, I will be explaining that later as well, I've decided I'm actually not going to release the review until my birthday of November. Just to kind of, like, give that extra time where it's, like, not released exactly in October, like, in case, you know, things don't go well, like, early in October, mid-October, but I'm going to release it in November, hoping that things go over well. And it'll be on my birthday because my birthday happened to be on a Sunday this year. Am I going to do anything? No. Probably not. Probably eat some cake. So yeah, I'm in favor of the actors. I'm pushing back my review video, and I'm also doing like a bunch of other projects in the meantime. And I got another review in mind, which I think would be really interesting to do. But that's channel update stuff, kind of. But why am I making a video about the strike? Well, ever since, actually specifically Dominic Noble brought up the whole influencers not promoting movies. Yeah, he mentioned that, and I was already, like, casually watching the strikes go on through, on Twitter through Adam Conover, who is, think he's a spokesperson. I mean, he's been talking about it a lot on his Twitter, and he's been retweeting a bunch of other people's comments about it. But I was initially just a casual watcher. Dog, you were so loud. I made a mistake of giving him a bully stick, and so he's all crunching in the background. I'm sorry. So I've just been kind of casually watching it, but then after, you know, hearing about the actors joining and, you know, pushing back my review and everything, I decided, you know, if there's enough stuff that's happened, which quite a bit happened, I'll read more articles, I'll pay more attention to it, eventually make a video kind of kind of detailing of everything that has happened within like timeline order. I don't think there's really any video out there, at least not yet, of anybody going in depth, going in depth onto like what is happening right now, especially since it is an ongoing thing, and I might be a little bit early in talking about it, but I might as well, something I want to do, might as well explain everything that I know of that has happened. And then when we get a update of when the strike ends, I'll possibly make a second video, or just like a little response thing for that. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm just gonna be talking about what I know so far, and hopefully everything that I know of is accurate and it's enough to help even you guys understand what exactly is going on, while also sharing my opinion in this whole thing. Anyway, first things first, who are the parties involved? There are three main groups, both the reason that this strike is happening. Three main ones, along there's also a bunch of smaller groups, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on the three big main ones. The first one, I have to read this out loud, but it's the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or the AMPTP. This is a group, by the sound of it, they're not really a union, but they're just more like a group of representatives for the actual producers of all these studios. Some of the studios they represent, of course, they represent Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, Discovery, CNN, Fox. I can't think of any more. Did I say Universal? They represent a lot of studios, especially the really big meg ones. Yeah, they represent them in creating negotiations and deals with other union members, other groups in contracts, and set rules of what the producers are willing to give and want and what have you. So they're just their representative. That's what they are. They're usually, because it's not usually the producers themselves that get involved, which at this point the producers themselves are getting involved in this particular strike, but it's usually just this alliance of representatives. They're the ones that gets together with the Writers Guild, the Actors Guild, and anybody else in creating deals and negotiates different aspects of payment safety and everything. That's who they are. And then we get to the second group, the Writers Guild of America, specifically the Western side, because there's actually two different subgroups, but they're all striking together. So it's the Writers Guild of America, or the WGA. The WGA is the America's Writers Guild, and the members include people who write for television, they write for film, and they also write for even for streaming shows and reality TV and whatever writing is involved in a production of some kind. There will be someone in that guild for that. Yeah, that's what they do. They're writers, and they come together and agree to, it's like, okay, and they're together in this guild together to make sure everyone is safe and happy with their jobs. That's who they are. And they also have leader representatives who are also writers, I think, who really take in all the demands and input from everybody in the guild. And then these leaders are the ones who actually go and negotiate with the AMPTP. And then we get to the third group. The one with the longest title. The Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, or SAG-AFTRA. Or for short, SAG. But this particular group, anything involving acting, or physical performance or whatever, from, on-screen actors to voice actors to radio hosts, to dancers, just like they everybody is in this particular guild. And they're the same with the same situation with the writers. They all come together in this group, demand better pay and safety and what have you. And then they also have their own leaders that collect all input from their own members, and they would be the ones to approach the AMPTP in negotiations and for themselves, and that's who they are. And of course, these groups have been established since the 30s, I want to say. Oh, okay. So the Writers Guild and SAG were both established in the 30s, while the Producers Alliance was created in 1982. So the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA have been around several decades before the Producer Alliance. And for majority of the time, these negotiations do go over well because they happen every few years, because they set a deal for a few years, and then when that deal expires, they come back to the table to update it, make some changes, because the world of entertainment changes a lot. Like, filmmaking 30 years ago is different from filmmaking now. Heck, because we got streaming services like Netflix, where, yeah, again, maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, heck, maybe even 20 years ago, or maybe even as little as almost 10 years ago, as streaming shows and movies wasn't really a thing. And when it finally became a thing, it was never part of any deals or whatever, so they're able to take advantage of, they're able to pretty much do whatever they want, almost kind of like a Wild West kind of situation. And I think Adam Conover did mention that he actually had I think he shared a screenshot of an interview he had where he's heard like people like Netflix, Apple TV, the streaming services, even mentioning where it's like, oh, because we don't fall under the typical contracts that were negotiated previously, we can pretty much do whatever we want when it comes to like the writer's room and how we treat the actors. So it's a whole new territory. They're able to get away with nearly anything. Now we get to what led up to the strike. What caused the strikes to happen? And this is where we get to a lot of things. First, I have to mention the original deal that the writers had. The writers and the producers, back in May of 2020, had set a deal that was heavily influenced by the pandemic and a lot of things that happened there. And unfortunately, this particular deal wasn't the best, more so for the writers, because it didn't quite include things involving streaming, because streaming got really, really big during this time when it comes to people relying on that for their entertainment when the movie theaters shut down. So everyone, like including the actors themselves, just everybody in, when they're making these streaming only shows and movies, they're finding that the producers are the ones, or the studios are the ones who are making the most money when it comes to residuals, or like the bypassing like licensing fees, while people like the actors or actors are getting like pennies. And of course, the writers getting absolutely nothing either, because they're the one who they're the one who made up all the really fun lines. They're the one who create the fun scenarios that the characters get themselves into. And sometimes the actors would say something. It was like, I feel my character would do this or say this instead. But majority of the time, it's the writers who make all those fun lines that these actors and characters get to say. But the writers, they get nothing. And we're at the point where, because writer rooms were slowly becoming extinct, because these studios just doesn't want to, they just don't want to buy writers anymore. That they just, or not buy writers, but pay for writers to come in. Especially when you got programs like ChatGPT, where they just throw in an idea and that comes up with a script, and they'll only hire a writer for like a day or two to make all the small edits, and they let them go for like $100. And then that writer just have to pray that there's another work before the next rent is due. So it's like, it's really, really bad for the writers. So May of 2023 came around, this deal expired, And the writers and the producers came together for another meeting to try to negotiate another deal. This time including things like, oh, we want residual pay, we need a dedicated writer's room with a set number of people, and we don't want to start heavily relying or be replaced by like AI programs like ChatGPT. I think those were the like three main things, plus, a little bit more. Like, better pay, health insurance coverage, and all that fun stuff. But the AMPTP didn't like this new deal, and didn't like what the writers were saying, and then kind of an argument broke out a little bit, and insults were thrown. It got to the point where it's like the writer guild is just like, screw it, we're gonna go strike. We don't like what you're doing. We don't like what's happening here, and so we're just gonna go on strike, and we're gonna halt production. And that's what they did. So that's what started the strike for the writer side. And then soon after the Writers Guild voted to strike, the Actors Guild were seeing this, and they're like, oh, we also have a deal that's about to expire in April. Oh no, in June. Okay. So it's like 1 month later, SAG-AFTRA was seeing everything, are like, okay, we have a deal that's going to expire in about less than a month. Let's go ahead and start negotiations before it expired, so that because the sooner the better. And let's go ahead and vote right now. If a new deal isn't made and the producers and the AMPTP is fighting us back, let's vote on whether or not we will strike if things go wrong. But if things go right, then we won't strike. But we'll have to vote now whether or not people want to strike. And their goal with that is, we've already voted to strike, so if you guys don't make a proper deal with us, we'll go on strike. That's their bargaining chip for their negotiations with the AMPTP. Unfortunately, that didn't go over well. They also kind of got into an argument. Insults were also thrown as well. And so a SAG guild leader then said something about, okay, now you got two groups striking against you. 1 month later, July 14th, SAG joined the writers in striking. Well, before they joined, while the writers were striking, of course, there are rules and laws when it comes to strikes and protestings, and they have to be installed for the safety of everybody. So the studios can't union bust. I think that's what the term is. I think I'm using it right. They can't harm the people who are striking against them. That's against the law. They can't do that. But that for some studios, one studio, Universal, if it was just convenient, and the fine was only $250. So as there was one, it was a picket line. I guess I missed it, but yeah. Universal did two things against the picket line that was stationed in front of their studio building in California. Which, by the way, this is all happening in the summer, and California is known for being, well, hot in the summer. The first thing they did was all the trees that is lining their property, they didn't cut them down. They probably wanted to, but what they did was they pruned them. I think that's what the word is. Essentially, they trimmed all their leaves and branches off to the point where there's a possibility those trees are now permanently damaged, but I don't know for sure. All I know is that these particular trees were trimmed out of season out of spite for these strikers. Because now that with all these branches and leaves cut away, there's no shade on the sidewalk. And with it being blistering hot, now without that shade, the people who are striking are now exposed to the sun a lot more than they would have, and which would cause discomfort and sunburns, and sometimes too much sun could lead to cancer. So, well, I'm not saying the studios are trying to kill them, but I'm still not saying that. And of course the studio was fine, but they were only fined $250 because this is their first offense. And I mean $250 like in total, not per tree. And they trimmed like a lot of trees. I can't remember the exact number. They trimmed like pretty much all the trees that's lining their property. And this particular breed of tree aren't supposed to be trimmed or pruned until the fall. But they were done in the summer, and the studio came out saying, oh, we usually trim them during this time, even though they never got a license to trim them for 3 years. So it's obvious, but I wouldn't be surprised if Universal talked to their lawyers of like, okay, what's the worst case scenario that we trimmed all our trees and got rid of the shade? Oh, you get a $250 fine because this will be your first offense. And they're like, okay, cool, this is a steal. We just pay $250 the fine, and we get to make the strikers uncomfortable. Because $250 to a massive corporate studio that Universal is literally just a drop in the ocean. Not a drop in the bucket, drop in the ocean. Yeah. Of course, people went to Twitter about it, and it's just like, it was a whole storm, and not much can really be done about it. Other than more water, sunscreen, hats, all the fun supply stuffs to try to keep themselves alive. And then the second thing that Universal did, I think it's in the same place, they decided, their building needs to be updated, so they started construction on that same area that people were striking, which unfortunately their construction actually blocked off much of the sidewalk. If they wanted to continue standing there, they're going to have to walk their line on the road, which is incredibly dangerous, and 2 people were hit because of this. Not dead by the sound of it, they were hit. So it was really, really bad. The picket line did call cops on them about it to try to create a safety barrier, not just for the picket line, but also just normal pedestrians just trying to go about their day. So yeah, that was fun. That was what Universal did, and they thought it was worthwhile to get back at the writers and the actors, and just the picket line in general, which is incredibly scummy. Yeah, honestly, I think Universal needs to be investigated. Because they're willing to be this kind of petty to their picket lines. What are they doing to everybody else that is working for them? And also, technically, there was one more retaliation against the picket line. This was not Universal. Heck, this wasn't even studio run. Lionsgate Studio at their headquarters. I can't remember where they're located. One of their line producers, Ian Wolfe, did this on his own, where he attempted to intimidate the picket line over there by driving his car at them. He didn't hit anybody. He didn't try to run them over through the line or anything, thankfully. He attempted to just scare them. And when police were talking to him, he just said, "Oh, I didn't see them. I didn't mean to scare them." Lionsgate saw that, and they're just like, "Okay, yeah, nope, you're gone. Bye-bye." Just good on Lionsgate. Yeah, but those were I tried to look up more if there's more retaliation or anything like that by the other studios. But no, it's mainly Universal just doing their best to be petty. And then with the incident with Lionsgate line producers, that's not something Lionsgate, as far as we're aware, wanted him to do that. And they took responsibility by letting him go, because clearly he's a danger to the company. But yeah, those are the different retaliations that was done against them. And then, one more form of retaliation that happened was that Deadline Hollywood, which they've actually been the main news source for these strikes. They're the one who've been carefully watching them, so they're the ones who made the most articles about the strike. And it feels like they're also kind of leaning towards support for the actors and writers as well, but I don't know for sure. They're by the sound of it, they're sharing the news that they see, which is something you can ask for any news broadcast system, or for any news station. But anyway, Deadline Hollywood actually did an article where they talked to a few producers, the actual producers from the different studios. And July 11th was when the article came out, so it's already been 2 months that the actors have been striking. But their plan was to wait till October, when all the writers have lost their homes and can't pay rent on their apartments or whatever, which was incredibly scummy and disgusting and not petty at this point. It's full on malicious. Yeah, it's incredibly just why? Yeah, whoever this person was, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Bob Iger, in all honesty, or the Universal producer or Universal CEO. I can't remember his name. Yeah, they said that, and this also created more anger for the writers and the actors. So they said bet I think a little bit. I think they've had this funding for a long time out, even before they started striking. But they do have a donation fund, if which I remember right. I'm pretty sure I'll try to put a link of it down in the description. They actually do have a fund where the actors and writers or people in the industry who are more financially well off will donate their money to help the lower income or those who financially struggle in the industry. In which they've had a lot of donations, so they're able to help a lot of their people and prevent them from losing their homes or their apartments. And of course, they continued after this article came out. They then pushed it. Was like, hey, if you guys want to help, there's a lot of people who wanted to help. Thankfully, if you guys wanted to help, donate to this so that we can survive into October, so that they can continue the strike and everything. And thanks to the thousands of donations that they've gotten from a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people were able to just continue striking. And then we get to roughly 100 days into the writer's strike. And I think it was only like 70 days for the actors. But then the AMPTP, I guess, got a little impatient, but they actually started in early August. They tried them and the Writer Guild leaders started meeting back up again. Just little short meetings to try to end the strike a little bit earlier. And during these meetings, the Writer Guild and the AMTPT were given their counteroffers. Unfortunately, probably fortunately, but unfortunately, we don't know what the counteroffer the Writers Guild leaders were presenting, but we do know what the AMTPT tried what their counteroffer was. And even though they agreed to not have these counteroffers be made public, the AMTPT decided, no, we're just gonna make ours public anyway. I'll have it the whole thing kind of scrolling here if so you can see it, because it's really, really long. A lot of it I don't personally understand, but hopefully some of you guys do. But unfortunately, some people who do understand what's going on in this deal, in this counteroffer, is there's no mentions of residuals. Their compromise with the writer's room is really lackluster. And also a lot of the wording is incredibly vague and left to interpretation, which also means there's a bunch of loopholes in this counteroffer that the producers can use to take advantage of the writers. Which, the Writers Guild leaders saw that and they're like, okay, yeah, no, we don't like it. Here's ours. Again, we don't know what their counteroffer is, and that's for a good reason. It is because they're trying to keep these meetings like kind of not so much on the down low, but they're trying to keep it all under control. But unfortunately, the AMPTP, oh my gosh, said it so many times, but I still can't pronounce it, decided to try to, can't think of what the word, but they decided to not fully stop, but they decided to try negotiating their deals. They decided to try negotiating with union members instead of the union leaders. And by releasing their counteroffer to the public, now their thinking process was, oh, the writers will see this counteroffer, and because they're so desperate for work, because it's been a while since they've actually got paid work, they'll be desperate to clean on any counteroffer they can get that looks remotely good, and they'll force their leaders to accept this deal, and then we'll be able to go on with their lives, and the producers will still continue to make millions of money, while the writers continue to suffer. That did not happen. They made their counteroffer public. I think Deadline. Yeah, Deadline. Shared the whole thing. People were looking at it and going to Twitter and letting everybody know that, at least the members are letting each other know, hey, this counteroffer sucks. We're not the ones who are going to be negotiating with the AMTPT. They have to be negotiating with our leader. That's the whole point of why these guilds exist. And it's, yeah, it backfired against the AMPTP, so they pretty much had to go back to the drawing board on what to do. And then the next thing the AMPTP did to try to basically manipulate the public, specifically the union members, though, which this one it feels more like the general public than just the union members, is the AMPTP but they hired a crisis management PR team to write articles that shows the AMPTP in a better light. And when people saw that a particular PR team was hired on, people got pissed first off at the PR team that who accepted the job, and that the AMPTP and the producers in general, since they're representing them, are more willing to pay for a PR team to make themselves try to get their image to look good, or to the general public. They'd rather pay them than their writers to end the strike and get work going. And oh my goodness, movies next year are going to be really weird. Actually, no, it's not even going to be weird. I think someone said there's going to be a, not really a dry spell, but we're not going to have very much stuff next year because this has been halted for so long. But yeah, the first thing the PR team did was write an article about the AMPTP's top negotiator. I think their president, I think that's what she was, Carol Lamborghini. And everybody has pointed out that this article feels like it misrepresents the guild greatly, the Writers Guild greatly. And there's a lot of like manipulation of information. They normally, and I've read through quite a bit of the article myself, and it pretty much focused trying to make Carol look sympathetic and like an every woman, I think someone said they called her, because she likes football. She grew up in a working family. Well, she probably liked long walks on the beach too, like everybody else. It's just like it was pretty lame. And I think one Twitter user, and probably a union member, even said that in the article there was a line about how her personality is described as that's what that line in particular feels like. It's like, oh, so because she is the way she is, there's now a writers and actors strike going on that's halted productions for nearly everybody. Yeah, that was a poor wording choice right there. I completely skipped over this piece of information, but there was actually several meetings that the leaders had even after the counteroffer was made public. The Writers Guild leaders actually did hold a meeting with studio producers themselves because they went in hoping or expecting to hear another counteroffer and have another discussion on, ending the strike. But instead, the meeting lasted the one particular meeting, it only lasted 20 minutes, and it was just Writers Guild leaders being lectured about how this particular offer is the best that they can do, and they should take it. Some reports even said that the loudest out of everybody was Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. So yeah, when those meetings weren't going over very well, and after the PR stunt, also like everything they've been doing is just coming. It's not good. The AMPTP and the producers, every mistake they made is making them look worse and worse and worse to everybody else, and making the people who are striking, making them look better and better. To the point where like more than half the general population is in favor of the writers and their strike, and what they stand for. It's not looking good for the producers. And as of recording this, the latest information that I know of is that the producers are they are seeing all this, and they're like, okay, no, we have to sit down and actually someone's running around now. No, we actually have to sit down and discuss what's going on and actually find a way to create a deal that makes both us and the writers happy, and try to end this strike as soon as possible. I'm still of the opinion that it's not going to go on until October, and I'm hopeful that it ends in October, but we'll just have to wait and see. Oh, I just thought of something funny. If the strike continues past October, I'm going to be Bob Iger for Halloween. Hold me up to that. I'm totally going to do it. I'm going to dress up as Bob Iger for Halloween if the strike continues past the holiday. I'm totally going to do it. Anyway, and of course these producer meetings are happening without Bob Iger by the sound of it. Because he's been the most loudest and the one who is pushing for the leaders to accept the poor counter offer they initially have. So they're just kind of like, oh great, we're gonna leave the noisy one out of this, and we're just gonna have us civil people actually sit down and just like put our 2 brain cells together, try to figure out what we're doing wrong and how to fix our mistakes. Which, you know, I'm both kind of like a little on edge, but I'm hopeful this will end very well. But we'll just have to wait and see. And that's pretty much as I know that's going on, and then what's as of recording this video, that's everything that I know of that's happened. Whether or not all of this is truthful, I'm assuming it's truthful, but I'm going to be surprised if someone goes down in the comments and corrects me on something, which totally open for. I want to know what's really going on, and make sure that my support is on the correct side. But other little things that happened while this strike was happening. All the VFX artists have decided to unionize, and all I can say about it is, finally! Finally you guys are unionizing, because oh my gosh, the VFX work lately for a lot of the big studios are looking crap, and from what I'm hearing, it's because of poor treatment. So it's like, finally, hopefully, when these guys unionize and they get proper deals made, and everything will look better again. I'm hopeful for that. So it's like, yep, good job. I wish the VFX artists the best of lucks in making work better for them, which in turn should make their art look better too. The very last thing I heard, hoping that Conover hasn't tweeted. No, he has not. Or retweeted. I don't know. But the very last thing I heard is that actors are also considering, either once this whole thing is over or maybe a little bit earlier, but the Actors Guild is considering striking against the gaming industry, specifically for voice actors, because I mean they're all voice actors, but they're considering striking against the gaming industry because of the poor treatment a lot of voice actors are getting in that industry. I've heard a little bit of things here and there, specifically with games like Genshin Impact, which have I played that? I played the tutorial and that's as far as I got. But yeah, I've heard that they're not getting the right payment. Fan treatment is a whole other issue, but yeah, they deserve to be paid what they're worth. But we'll just have to wait and see if that happens. And I also wish them the best of luck in that. I think that is everything at the moment. As of, what is today? As of September 3rd, which is the day I am recording right now, and hopefully I get this done within the next few days. That's everything I know that's currently happening right now. If another big thing happens that is worth making a video about, I will, just to kind of keep this channel alive. Or when the strike ends. Hopefully the next video I make will be about the strike ending. If not, there'll be another video after this, and then a third video about the strike ending. More than likely, at least that's when I'm hoping the next video is the strike ending, but I'll still keep an eye on things, and hopefully everything I said here makes sense. I was a little all over the place because there's a lot of information and there's a lot of dog hair. Yeah, that's everything I know, and now you know what I know, and hopefully what you know that I know is correct. And yeah, I'll see you guys all in the next video. Whether that, more than likely, yeah, the next rant video. Yes. Okay, bye!